I'm recording this I'm recording this video to demonstrate how to run and debug the code of data analytics. So this is the GitHub URL for the code, github.com community/data-analytics. To get this code into your local machine, the first dependency is git. Install git in your local machine if you haven't yet. So install this. After the git is installed, go to code, https, copy URL to clipboard. On your folder, let's create a folder called data analytics. Let's see. Okay, it's different. Analytics code. They have it. Here it is. Let's create a terminal in this folder. And you will hit git clone the git URL. It will clone the repo. So data analytics. Clone the repo, data analytics. Inside data analytics code, we got our folder data analytics. The API, it consists of the Python code. The Terraform is for the CI/CD. The UI folder is supposed to have the UI, which we don't have yet. So for now, just the API. API holds the Python code. So let's open a terminal in the API folder. The first thing we will do is create a virtual environment to run the Python code. Let's see the documentations to API README. Go to the section how to run the local run, then create a virtual environment with command python-m v-environment.venv. Let's copy this. API. So Python -m venv.venv. .venv is the name of our virtual environment. Then the next is to activate the virtual environment source.venv bin activate. Source.venv bin activate. This is for Mac. Windows, the syntax would be slightly different. So go to this documentation to see how to activate the virtual environment in Windows. Now let's open the code in VS Code. We open the API folder in the VS Code. Yes, let's see. This is the data git repo. I'm okay with it. Another dependency we would like to install is the requirements. To run the Python code, we need to install the required packages, which are in the requirements.txt. We need all these packages. So let's install it. pip install -r requirement.txt. This will take some time for you. It's running from most of the packages are collected from the cache, so it's quite faster in my case. In your case, it might take some time to load all the packages. I will quickly update the README API README where the command local run create command. Let's enter the bash again. Yes, this is B. Now we have the just updated the format pip install requirement the txt pip install. Just updated the format while I was waiting for the virtual environment to complete. Okay, so the load is done. How the code is structured? Now, let me go first through the entry point. Close everything. No, we still have dependencies. The next is for you to download the data analytics folder from Teams and extract the credentials and environment file. Environment file is not shown here. Environment file, the file name is .env, so it's a hidden file. To show the hidden file in Mac, you press Command Shift dot. It will show the hidden files. If you don't want to show the hidden files, Command Shift dot again. Command Shift dot to show the hidden files. I want you to copy the credentials and .environment file. Copy, and in our new code inside the API, let's paste. We have the environment file and the credentials. The credential folder should have service account.json and the environment file. Let's see what it contains. Credentials, service account.json, and the environment file. The environment sample file, just a copy. The environment file consists of the configurations, Google application credentials path, Google Analytics property ID, and as a community export key. We don't need this, but still it's there. Now, let's try to run the code. Google Analytics service test. Go to Google Analytics service tests. Let's load this. Select the kernel, the Python kernel. Click on select Python environments. By default, the VS Code recommends the virtual environment .venv/bin/python. So this is our path for the virtual environment. Select that virtual environment, and from Google Analytics module, this folder, from services, Google Analytics service, we are importing Google Analytics service class. So this one, Google Analytics service. This class holds the method to fetch data from Google Analytics. This service class holds the business logic to fetch data from Google Analytics. The actual code to fetch data from Google Analytics lies in the repositories folder. So we have Google Analytics repository base class, and then Google Analytics repository version 4.py. Version 4.py means this class is to fetch data from Google Analytics 4. It inherits Google Analytics base class, and version 4 specific code goes to this v4 class. And the repository base holds the common methods. And V3, Google Analytics API Retrieval V3 holds the code for version 3. Since we no longer have version 3, I just commented all the code for V3. But if we have, if we had, if we need to support, then we inherit it from the base class and then add V3 specific code on the V3 class. For now, let's go to our notebook. We created an object of Google Analytics service where it's we have a start. We initialize the start date, end date, and dataset ID. This dataset ID is for the Burnside Council. Let's run this code. IPY kernel package. Okay, let's install. It might take some time to install the kernel package in the virtual environment. Okay, it's done. It's loading. It's running. Okay. Then let's run the code to get the sessions by landing page for dataset ID of Burnside for the start date and end date. We will retrieve the landing page. Get sessions by landing page as data frame, as DF. This method returns the data as a data frame. We populated 12, 10 rows and 3 colons, dataset ID, landing page, and sessions count. Now let's see how to debug this. Add a breakpoint. Let's add a breakpoint. Hit the more button and debug cell. You will hit the breakpoint here. This button is for the continue F5, step over F10, step into F11, step out command F11, refresh, stop. So we want to execute the debugger inside this function get sessions by landing page. So our option is step into. Now we are inside the get sessions landing page as DF. Now let's add more breakpoints. This method will return results and then convert results into data frame and convert appropriate data types for the pandas data frame. So we still want to go in and see what's inside the get session by landing page function. We do step into, step into, okay, again step into. Now we are inside the method get session by landing page. We create the dimensions. I'm pressing F10. Step over F10 means go to the next function, next, not the function, next line of execution of code. So simply press F10, F10. Now, since we need to go inside the get data method to see what's there, we press the step N2. Pressing F11 will go to the full screen mode. So let's just use the mouse. Step into, or we can simply click the get data, go to definition and put a breakpoint inside that method and simply hit F5. So we bypass all the executions and we hit the breakpoint inside the get data folder. Let's press F10, F10, filter clause, F10. In filter clause set organization ID, it's empty, okay. It creates a class for Google request config, and then again, now it goes to the get data method of Google Analytics repository. Let's have a breakpoint here, press F5. Okay, it creates a client object. We are in the Google Analytics repository folder now. It creates a client of Google Analytics library. It converts the date into string, see, and then it calls the run report request method. Let's F5 here, and let's run this. This run report method is the actual method that hits the Google API and then returns the response. It returns the response, rows, totals. How many? Row count, 12, 10. Then the format response, go to definition. Format response formats the response received from the Google Analytics and creates a list. Results. Now we have the list of object with key, custom ID, custom event dataset ID, landing page, and sessions. Let's hit F10, F10, F10. So the results variable contains a list and we are converting it into a data frame. F5. And finally, we hit it. We got the response as the landing page data frame. Okay, this is how we debug the code. Now, one crucial thing about Jupyter Notebook is good definition. We changed something else. We changed the function, some new argument, some new argument equals. Okay, we need it to be a string, we need to be some. We save this, some new argument. Let's hit the breakpoint, and in the Jupyter Notebook, we pass some new argument. Some new argument equals to this. Let's hit the debug. I want to inside. F5, F5. No. Why? The error is Google Analytics session by landing page df. That method got an unexpected keyword argument, some new argument. You surely changed it. You added it on the Python code, but Jupyter Notebook says that it's invalid. The reason is Jupyter Notebook needs restart after we change the Python code. Let's clear all output. Let's restart. Restart. Run the code again. Now run the code again. Now it didn't show any error. Means let's debug. Let's press F5. Now it has the value. The Jupyter Notebook recognized the changes in the function. So that's the downside of using Jupyter Notebook for debugging. Not just debugging, for coding, as it every time it needs to refresh. Every time you make changes to the code, you need to refresh it. So now I don't want those changes, so I will just revert it discard changes, and the Jupyter notebook. I don't want this either. Just discard it. Okay, now we are fresh again. There are a couple of notebooks. Google Analytics Service Test. This notebook is to shows examples of how to call the data, how to get the data by sessions by landing page, sessions by age, sessions by gender, sessions by source, sessions by medium, get the sessions by organization ID, and mostly you will use this, get sessions by organization IDs as data frame. So one way to run the code is from the Jupyter notebook. Now, next way to run the code is just go to the Python code and run it directly from here. Debugger, add the debugger. Let's see. Service, start date, end date, organization ID, get session by organization ID. Let's run this code. Hit run and start debugging. It's the same process from here. No module named UVCon. I do need UVCon. Okay. It went to Python module. Oh, it went to fast API. Okay, let's skip this. Now, next I will show you the API. Wait, they must, how I organized my code. The repository folder, it consists of data access. So the repository code means it fetches the data. The actual interaction with data happens here on the repository class. Suppose we are to fetch data from database, I would have created a repository class for that name. Let's say we want a user record. Then I would have created user repository that will fetch record from database. In our scenario of Google Analytics, it fetches data from Google Analytics API. So I created Google Analytics repository class. And service class, I prefer having the service class. Service class is where I write all the business use cases, business logic. Repository only has the data access code, no business logic at all. Service classes consist of business logic. For example, the function method sounds, let's see. I'll show you an example. Okay. So we have a method, get sessions data as Excel. We want all the session data as Excel. What it does, the input is CU data sets. It gets the session by landing page. It gets the session by age, gender, source, medium. So it consolidates all the source data and writes them to Excel. So this is kind of a business logic to accommodate all the changes, all the consolidation of data. So business logic here is add more features to session by landing page. We enriched the data here. Business logic could be others too. So every business logic goes to service classes. It's time to see the API. The API are in the folder app. Then the main.py is the entry point. Let's select the kernel first. Python We want the Python to be base environment, not the other one, BENV, base environment. How the debugger works. VS Code launch.json UVCon module app.main reload. The API is built with fast API. Main.py. Let's start debugging. Now it found the UVCon process application start complete. UVCon running on HTTP 127. Just make sure that your environment is the virtual environment. The Python interpreter is pointed to the virtual environment. Okay, let's refresh this. I don't want anything. Just press escape. No. Okay, select anything 127.0.0.1. Let's go to Chrome. Just copy the URL 127.0.0.1.8000. Hide floating meeting controls. Paste. And we have the as a community data analytics API. Slash DOS CS. This is the Swagger documentation. We have section Google Analytics session council. Where does this come from? In the code, the main.py is the main entry point for fast API. The documentation of fast API you can see in the fast API. The Docker file, fast API. So we use this library to create the API. You can see more details on the API. So run the server. Fast API dev main.py. This is how you run the code. Start the fast API server. Fast API dev main.py. And that command we have integrated into launch.json. Args main.app reload. So this arguments, it runs the equivalent command. If we scroll the terminal, you can see launcher, UVCon app main app dash reload is if you make any changes on the code, it will just get reflected. So main.py is the entry point. We have the routers. App routers folder has Google Analytics session API routers and council name API. So all the API related to Google Analytics sessions goes to Google Analytics session API.py file. And the API, those are related to council, goes to council name API. Now we are interested in Google Analytics sessions API. So which method we want to try? Let's try the same by landing page. Filtered by organized ID, filtered by dataset ID. Okay, we want this sessions. Let's add a breakpoint. We have our Jupyter notebook. Let's copy the contents from there. Burnside dataset ID. Let's copy this. Our documentation. We want to get the landing page. You can't add anything. Why? You need to click try it out. Dataset ID, start date. Let's give in some arbitrary date, or do you want the same date? 2023-7/1. 2023 07-01. Make note that the date should be two-digit numbers 0701. If you add 7, 1, it will be wrong. So date should be formatted as two-digit numbers. And end date 24/6/30. 2024-06/30. Let's execute. Now we hit the breakpoint. We follow the same debugging principle. Press F10, 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 get session by landing page. We want to see what's happening inside the method. So we go to definition. We add a breakpoint there. Press F5. Okay, we don't want any breakpoint now here. On the API page, just press F5. Now we are inside the services. So what's this? Step over F10, 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 F10. Now this time we don't want to go inside the get data function. So we just press F10. Oh, we still have breakpoint. No. Oh, this is not the get data. So F5, don't want any breakpoints. F5. We are done with the breakpoints. Go F5. Format response. F5. Now we have the sessions data. Oh, and get success JSON response. This is a common method, helper method inside the API helper file. It returns the JSON response for the API. So return JSON response with the our API response detect. And we got our response. Response is okay, true, data, dataset ID, landing page, sessions. This way you can debug the API endpoints. Or if you don't want to, if you just want to run and not debug, stop it. You would prefer run without debugging. But most of the time you will just start debugging. Hit the breakpoint. Google Analytics Session API. This file is the entry point for all the Google Analytics APIs. App, routers, Google Analytics Sessions API. And for all the methods, some common methods, it goes to helper classes. Like I have some Excel functionality. I wrote it in Excel helper. This class writes data to Excel. Then file helper, it reads. File helper contains the methods related to file. Then pandas helper method contains methods related to pandas, so on. I hope this helps you to run the code and debug the code. If you add some changes, oh, I'm in the main branch. Okay, let's create a new branch. We have some change here. I made some changes on the README. Data analyst code ls cd. That's data analytics. This is our root folder ls. So we want to create a new branch. Get checkout dash b. What do we name this? It's okay. It's normally we would give a sensible name what we do in what we did, what we are going to do in that branch. Since this branch Since this video is for the run and debug, let's type run and debug. When you try to debug the code, try to create a new branch, run and debug, it will be existing. So find a new one. Just maybe write your name, branch name, switch to new branch, run and debug. If you do the git status again, now we are in the on branch, run and debug. The next step is to get push upstream origin our branch name, run and debug. Okay, what did what we did? Git checkout dash b. It created a new branch in the local machine. When we do git push upstream origin, it pushes the branch to the GitHub. Now, if you go to GitHub, data analytics, and see the branches, now we have run and debug branch we just created. If you make any changes, like I just did, I changed the readme. Always create a new branch and make your changes. Say updated readme. What I did, formatted syntax. Okay, formatted code. Commit, sync. Changes are done. Go to get code. So new changes had been pushed 13 seconds ago. Compare and pull request. This is the easy path. Also, next option is select your branch, run and debug, then code, no, run and debug, contribute, open pull request. Add a title, updated readme, formatted code. Have some description, updated readme, formatted code for creating virtual environment. Okay, what did I do? Code for virtual vir to virtual environment. What did I do next? Check the files. Activate virtual environment. Install dependencies. List all the actions you did. List all the changes you make in the description so that it becomes easier for the reviewer. Create a pull request. Base branch main. Created pull request. That's good. And select a reviewer. Okay. Select my name. It would be POO5JAN. Since I'm the main user, it doesn't show up as a reviewer. For now, I will choose someone else as a community Pujan as the reviewer. So I will get notification and I will check the code, files changed. I will see the code, I will review the code, and then I will merge the code. At this stage, the README is not available in the main branch. If you go to README, it's still local run, still the unformatted one. Let's merge the pull request. Go to pull request, select the pull request, merge pull request, confirm merge. when the pull request gets merged, I updated some configurations to delete the branch. So run and debug branch has been deleted. It's okay. We can delete the branch after we merge the pull request. Code, there are no more branches, no more run and debug branch because I deleted it after merging the PR. It's the configuration settings. Settings, pull request, it's somewhere here. Branches, rules, webhooks, environment, property, somewhere. Okay, somewhere in the pull request sections. But for now, let's leave it. So now if we check the README file, the command is now formatted. And it's in the main branch. And with the code, see the code, get status on run and debug. If we try to do pull, it will throw error. It didn't. It should have done. Configuration is removed to ref heads debug. Remote, no such ref was fetched. Okay. So we go to main branch. It says to pull your branches behind origin by 2 commits, and you git pull to update your local branch. Okay. So git status. We are behind main branch by 2 commits. So we pull the latest changes. And now readme. The updated readme is available on the main branch. So this is how we debug things here. The app folder for the API, DTOs for the data transfer object to format the response object, routers is for the API endpoints, API helper class for some common methods, dependencies when we'll have some dependencies for fast API, credentials folder contains the service account file, and then data transform. This folder holds the data cleaning methods, clean landing page. It contains methods to clean the landing page. Then data transformation. It contains some data processing. I need to check if this is still being used. Then documents folder about more README files for CI/CD. I will be updating this more. Because recently I configured CI/CD using GitHub Actions, Terraform, AWS, and Kubernetes. Okay. Then next, some useful commands for Docker, Google Analytics authentication documentation. Then DTOs, these are the data transfer objects for the request and response. Google Analytics module for all the Google Analytics functionalities. Close others. Let's see. Don't save. Okay, I'll just make the changes later on. Module repository contains the repository classes. Then service folder contains the services where the business logic resides. Then helper classes, all the helper methods. Scraping folder is entirely for the scraping logic. Council name scraping service to scrape the council name. Find council by address response. This is a DTO again, scraping response, it is a DTO, and have the DTO suffix here. Sometime later I will change it. URL checker, this. Okay, I'm not having consistency. It should have been URL checker service class. I will modify it sometime later to refactor it. Web scraping, where all this code scraping logic resides. The data from URL, what it does. This method using playwright to scrape data, scrape using requests, scrape using playwright async, scrape using playwright, scrape using Selenium. So we have multiple options. Scrape URL. It first tried to scrape data using requests library, then playwright, then Selenium. Why three options? Request is without the browser. It's this direct scraping, direct getting data from the browser, because some website they prohibits the spiders. In that case, we need to simulate the browser. Then we use Playwright and Selenium. Playwright or Selenium. It was hard for me to configure Selenium in Docker. On the local machine, it worked well, but in the Docker, the Selenium configuration was it didn't work well. So the Playwright, it worked well. And that's what it is. The preference is Playwright. Next, services. It's about to say CU data service. What it does, it reads the data from CU dataset file. Then settings, I no longer need this. Tests, I'm supposed to write unit tests here. I wrote some helper, some test for the helper classes. Test date helper, it inherits from unit test dot test case metadata helper string helper test. Later, I will be following the unit test approach everywhere, because this Google Analytics repository test, it doesn't follow the it's not a unit test. I just wrote this for debugging purpose. The same applies for this. It's just for debugging. I will refactor it. But the test, date helper, they are the actual unit tests. And that's pose a question, how to run the unit tests. Let's see. Now the thing is pylint. Tell the pylint. Let's go to readme, and there is a section, pylint. To code, data analytics, not this one. API. Pylint git ls file.py. It will check the static code analysis for the Python files. It will rate the code. Let's see how much it rates. 9.85 of 10. Previous run 10, 9.85. So we need to rename. We need to fix all these values. Okay, we need to fix all these errors. CU data service.py, line number 40. Argument name df does not confirm snake case naming style. Invalid name. Error message. Let's see. Services CU data service.py, line number 40. Services CU data service.py, line number 40. 40 df. Am I in the virtual environment? Yes. So argument and data doesn't confirm snake case naming style. df. It says means the name is too small. Data frame. Let's rename it. So the empty data frame. Save. Anywhere else? No. We run the pilot again. Oh, previous run 9.85, new run 9.86. We improved by 0.1. So this needs to be 10, else it will fail. I will fix all these issues, but not while recording the video. I'll do it later. The final thing I want to show is how to run the unit tests. Unit test command. These are all in the README Python. Let's clear these all. Okay. Python -m unit test discover -s where the path slash test slash helpers that p parameter underscore tests that py find everything, every methods in the tested py, and it ran 13 tests. So how it finds it? Inside the helper methods, find everything that's underscore tests, which has the underscore test that py naming convention. It runs all the tests and it passed it. Assert equal. Let's break something. 25. Let's 24. Date helper. Run again. Now it failed. Assertion error. Ran 13 test and give the error. Where the error lies, line number 21 in test convert date health. Line number 21. Before. Alternatively, you can just debug this file. It should, but it won't. Right? Because we have the fast API configured, so it won't run. It's okay. It just runs the fast API. There should be another configuration for it. For now, let's see. Let's just see from here, the console. And we found the issue. Let's fix it. Revert it to 25. Run the test again. And now everything is passed. No failures. So this is how you run the test, run the unit test, use the pylint to check the code and fix everything that's there in the pylint. Try to make changes. If you make changes, always create a new branch, make your changes, and create a pull request. I will stop this video, stop this recording. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me either in Slack or email of SC community. Mm, okay.